Hi, and welcome to the She's a Christian podcast. I'm your host, Louise, and this podcast is going to be brought to you every single week. If you're a Christian and you're looking for some great community, then we hope that this podcast makes you feel like you've nipped round to your pal's house for a cup of tea and a chinwag, and that you go away feeling even more excited and more aware of God's goodness, His love for you and His protection over you. If you aren't a Christian, or you know some Christians but they're a bit weird, maybe you're not even sure that God exists, maybe you're seeking, then this is a great place for you too. Come along, tune in, and we hope that you go away feeling encouraged and uplifted, hearing testimonies of goodness from people from all walks of life. Tune in, I don't really know what I'm doing, but does anyone? And let's do this together. So hello everyone and welcome back to the She's a Christian podcast. There's been a brief hiatus, but we are back today and we are at Liberty Church in Dunfermline recording a podcast with Donna here. And I'm really excited to introduce you to Donna. So Donna is a mum of four. I keep forgetting them all. Four. And Donna and our kids go to the same school and we get to see each other every single day. And Donna's background is that she has her qualification in trauma-informed parenting, and she's partway through finishing up being an integrative Christian counsellor, and she has an amazing testimony actually, and it's probably quite good that we're doing this in your church today in Liberty, because Liberty Church has been a real refuge for you over the course of the last few years, and a really part of your life. So it's going to be brilliant to talk to Donna today, and I'm so excited for you all to hear her story and her testimony. It's quite a heavy one today, I would say, but it's good. It's really, really good, and I'm excited to talk about it. So I'm just going to start off. I'm going to pass over to Donna, and I'm just going to ask you to tell everyone a wee bit about how and when you became a Christian. So what that looked like for you and how old you were.
Okay. So I became a Christian, first of all, when I was 9 years old. I said the salvation prayer at Elim Pentecostal Church in Bradford. I had been watching my mum for a wee while, going to church, and a light going on with my mum, which was absolutely amazing. So my mum was diagnosed with bipolar, so she would have extreme mood swings. So she either loved me, hated me, or completely ignored me. And church life really began when two people came knocking at the door. We'd recently moved into a new home. I was only 8, and she was invited to go along, so she started to go along. And I started to see a change in my mum. She wasn't as anxious, she wasn't as fearful, and she started to live life. And which was really nice was she would tell me bedtime stories, which was lovely. I've never really experienced that with my mum. So I'm sitting in church, and Pastor Faith is inviting us to say the salvation prayer.
It's down in Bradford.
Down in Bradford,
okay.
Yep. And I remember saying it and walking away thinking that God was going to give me this perfect life, that all the bad things were going to stop. I was going to have this perfect little life with a mum and dad that loved me. And my mum, my real dad, I don't know who my real dad is. So I had this picture in my head, a fairy tale picture that all the bad stuff was going to stop. And it didn't. And I thought maybe there was something wrong with me, or maybe I didn't say the prayer right. So I remember speaking to God and just saying, show me what I need to do. Is it that I need to do something, for you to make all the bad stuff stop?
Yeah.
And the bad stuff didn't stop. Eventually, actually a pinnacle point was my mum got baptized. I must have been about 10 or 11 at that point, and a well-meaning Christian told her, now you do realise that now you've been baptized, the enemy's going to attack you. So my mum really took that on board, and she didn't have the understanding. She was still quite an immature Christian, a baby Christian. She didn't have the biblical background. She wasn't brought up in church, so she didn't have the understanding of God's word. It's like whatever the enemy throws at you, God is so much bigger, and he always has a word to be able to tell you that can overcome that stuff. And my mum eventually, the darkness just took over, and she came away from church at the age of 13. She had a massive nervous breakdown. I was taken out of school to look after her.
13?
At 13. I then became mum, literally. My mum regressed so much that she called me mum. But my mum had a really traumatic period. So she'd gone back in her mind to a very scary place.
Which you can see clearly now because you're trained in this. But at the time, you're just thinking...
I thought my mum had lost a rocker, honestly. My mum had completely lost the plot. My mum went into people's homes and started prophesying. And they came true. They actually
fueled our fire even more.
Which really did. But I don't know whether or not my mum realised that they came true or saw that, because I don't know how much my mum actually remembers at that time. But for 6 months I was out of school, and I had to look after my mum. So I was the cleaner, I was the cook, I remember having a twin tub and having to wash clothes with a twin tub. Jeans are not nice to wash in a twin tub, by
where was the social worker?
There was none.
But so you had just slipped right through like this net.
Totally slipped through the gap. Totally. We'd reached out to the church and basically hit a brick wall. There wasn't the understanding that there is now. They did pray with my mum, you know, but they just kind of went away. My mum prayed for me, but my mum, when she prayed, it was terrifying.
Quite dramatic.
It was quite dramatic. So then at age 14, I rebelled. I totally rebelled. I ran away from home. I did try going back to school, but I'd looked after my mum for 6 months. There was no way that my brain was going to be able to sit in a classroom and be able to take in information at all. I was so disruptive. I was horrendous.
You're like a wee adult. Because fighting over Christian chocolate in the playground, that's quite low level for you at that age, because you were grown up.
I was. But I also had such a strong sense of injustice. So I do not condone this at all, but I put my hand up and the teacher ignored me and went straight past me. I went to a boy that had put his hand up straight away, and I got so angry that I got up and I knocked him on the shoulder, and then I pushed him and I left him. Yeah, it was terrible.
You were just hyper vigilant, like hyper aware.
Extremely. I was not very pleasant. I was so angry. I was so angry at the world. But underneath all that, I was terrified. I was so full of fear. You know, and it was like, oh my goodness. And through all this, I could not see God anywhere in it. You know, it's like, where are you? Are you real? Are you not real? I would try going back into church, and I would try and, you know, fit in with my peers, but I didn't. I couldn't. You know, I'd started smoking at the age of 12. My mum allowed that to happen. So anyway, at the age of 14, I ran away from home. And I'd only been to this person's house once previously, and it wasn't for a very long period of time. So I'd actually planned to run away with a friend, but my friend chickened out.
I was always that friend, by the way. I was always like, I'm leaving, and then it's 4:45 and I'm hungry. I'm going home.
No, I decided I was going to go. So this was like, I'd wait till really late, and I'd put the key back through the letterbox.
There's no
going back. I was like, oh my goodness. So that was it. I don't even remember having any of my stuff with me though, to be honest. And I remember like taking the shortcuts through, absolutely terrified, thinking, oh my goodness, anything could happen right now. Where am I going to go? You know, what do I do? So anyway, I went to this woman's house, and her brother answered the door, and he was 24.
By
the next day I'm sitting in a pub, learning how not to be sick while getting drunk out of my face.
Oh my goodness.
And then that night, he was 24, I was 14. We were together.
Led you astray.
Totally. We were sleeping in the same bed, and we were having a full-on relationship. You know, so, and that relationship went on for 2 years.
Were you like, this is a far better life than what I came from? Like, this is the dream?
Do you know, I just thought I was a big girl. I thought I was an adult, and I could make adult decisions. You know, I was a cocky little so-and-so.
Were you wanting to, like, was part of you like, my mum's just been such a dream, like I'll show her?
My mum, when she had a nervous breakdown, our medication was all over, and my mum hurt me in ways that really seriously broke my trust. But it wasn't her fault.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought there was something wrong with me, so I actually thought that if I went away, my mum would be better off without me.
Got you. Okay.
And she would be able to get well.
Yeah.
Because I actually remember a psychiatrist saying, if you was just to behave, you would be able to help your mum.
Wow.
And it actually explained to me that when my mum got so stressed, she had a switch in her brain that would just switch off. So then that stayed with me, and I blamed myself for her being like that. And it wasn't my fault. My mum had had her own trauma growing up. And the psychiatrist didn't have all the background to what had gone on either. So he just saw this very problematic, disruptive child that was actually just seeking to be understood and to get rid of the fear. And what I learned was anger gave me a sense of power. And being angry and shouting at people gave me a sense of control. It was false control.
You know, it made you a wee bit like untouchable.
And it felt better than being terrified. But under it, I was. You know, so I made a lot of absolute rubbish decisions, but I didn't have the understanding. So it wasn't until much later. So anyway, at the age of 16, I then discovered I was pregnant. Which was madness. Me and my ex-partner, well, if I can call him that, had another of our massive arguments, and I left. During that time, two big, massive guys came to my door from child protection, and allegations had been made towards him that he had sexually abused little girls. So,
and they knew that you were somewhat connected with them.
Well, they were asking where he was. And I didn't know where he was. So they were asking where he was staying. I didn't know at that point.
Not maybe realizing that you're one of his victims, actually.
I didn't actually ever see it. Ever. Until very recently. Because I was 14, and in my head I was an adult. You know, and
you're carrying a baby when the police come to the door, so you're almost like the partner. As opposed to the victim.
Correct.
So fast forward, because I know that your life went on, and you had your two oldest kids by this point. By when you found yourself at rock bottom, Lily wasn't around.
No, so I had 3 children.
So 3 children at this point. What happened when? Because you told me a little bit about this. You reached rock bottom, and things began to pick up and turn around, and eventually compound to find you where you are today. Like, you're in this church, you're this vibrant, happy, amazing person. You are a contributor to society. You're giving back, you're working with your trauma-informed parenting, you're going to be a Christian counsellor. But what happened when you hit rock bottom, and then what began to happen as you went back up the hill after that?
So we're fast forwarding quite a bit.
Decade or so.
Quite a lot. So I am 32 years old. I had 3 children at that point. And I was not in a very good relationship with...
You were married?
At that point. So at that point, I had my boy and my daughter and my eldest daughter. So my eldest daughter was 14. And I was in a really poor relationship with my 2 youngest children's dad. So I left. And I took my children with me. I went into Women's Aid. My eldest daughter wanted to go back and stay with her stepdad. that
she'd
was
known him
hard.
since she was what, 5?
Yeah,
You say?
yeah. Well,
So that was-
4 actually when
so that was
I
like
moved up to Scotland. So
Was she seen as her dad?
yeah, so
Right.
she saw him as her dad.
Yeah.
And I went into Women's Aid. My 2 youngest children, their behaviour went crazy. So looking back now, I can see that I was their safe space.
Yeah.
And I was their person that they could let all their emotions out on. I did not see that at that time. I just thought I was the problem.
Yeah.
It was my issue because of what had happened to me and my upbringing. And I had this thought inside my head as well that I'm my mum's daughter. Have I got a switch inside my head?
Yeah.
If I get too stressed, could I switch off?
Yeah.
Could I hurt my kids?
Yeah.
You know, and that constant mantra went inside my head when, are they safe? Would they be better off without me? They would be better off without me. It changed to actually, I'm no good for my kids. Yeah. They would be so much better off without me. And my son, I'd actually got a phone call from the school. I'd had to move their school. Saying that he had disrupted the class. Right. So the whole class had to be emptied because he had these massive, big emotions inside of him. He did not know how to express. No. He'd been brought up in a very volatile environment that was extremely shouty. You know, there wasn't a lot of calm, regulated guidance at all. His parents were 2 messed up cookies, basically, that had come together. You know, and their environment was garbage, to be honest. So I got to the point where it was just like, what am I doing? What can I do? And I actually phoned up their dad and I said, you need to come and get them. This was a Friday. So he came and got the kids. And I went out determined I was going to end it all. I'd had enough of the fight. I wasn't doing this anymore. I had been studying the Bible through Precept Ministries, which was absolutely amazing. And I started to understand the Bible a little bit more with a lot of guidance from an amazing woman who just so discipled me. But I still had not got to that pinnacle point where God was real in here. So from age 13 all the way up to this bit, you had this sense of there's a God. I know there is, but you maybe couldn't like see him clearly until you had some guidance, like dig into the word and find out actually what's true versus what does the devil want me to think is true, which is that I'm a muck up, and if I was just better, things would fall into place. So you had a poor understanding of God. A totally poor understanding of God. And I wanted to get away from my own head. So I tried moving up away from Bradford and I moved up to Scotland. So I did that in 1998. And I thought that actually by moving up here, I could leave all that behind. But actually I brought me with me. Funny, eh? Couldn't escape me. So it's definitely been a journey. And I just remember, fast forward back to age 32, and I remember just saying, God, if you're real, stop me. And I went to the shop and I got myself the biggest bottle of vodka I could. And then I got a phone call from Anna, who'd been doing the presentations with me. And she's like, I'm in the town. She interrupted you. Yeah, I'm in the town. Would you like to pop in for coffee? So it was in Abbott House, the Pink House. Yes, I love that place. And she was there with Carol. The home of Prost Coffee. Yeah. Best coffee in Dunfermline. Shout out. Awesome. And then she actually sat with me with Carol and they prayed over me. Wow. And I still had this bottle of vodka tucked in. Cool. I'm so sorry. Honestly, I'm looking up going, oh my goodness. But anyway, I did. And I still wasn't convinced. I didn't see that as God intervening. And, it was just like, right, okay. And then I went over to a friend's flat. And I got absolutely drunk out of my face, but not drunk enough to actually take all the pills that I had planned to be taking. And I phoned up a friend that worked on the doors. And I was like, where are you? I'm going to come out. I wasn't dressed for going out clubbing. I just wanted more alcohol, and I knew that he would get me more alcohol, and I couldn't hear where he was. So I remember reaching over to go and turn the music down.
Yeah.
And as I reached over to turn the music down, I slipped off the couch, and I certainly felt an ouch.
Oh no!
I'm so sorry. I had to put that in, but I was like, I broke my toe. I broke my toe. But actually, the first thought that came into my head when I was sitting on the floor was, "Oh shit, you're real."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. You're like, I thought a fluffy white angel might appear to make it, but instead, no, you fell, you broke your toe. I know, like, you told me what this break was like. Let's not go into it because it's absolutely disgusting. It wasn't a
break, it was dislocated. It wasn't, it was a nice straightforward dislocation. It should have popped straight back into place. It didn't. I'm so sorry.
I just think, look, was the bone not sticking out?
It was.
Yes.
It was. You went there.
An open fracture.
Yeah, an open, it was just a pop.
That's right. But okay, so you broke your toe, and then you didn't take your life, obviously, you're sitting here. I
didn't. But what I did do was, after that initial thought of, oh shit, you're real, sorry, apologies, I actually took my sock off and thought about wrapping it up so I could still go and meet my pal.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it and I'm going, I'm not going to be able to do that.
No.
So I remember that the ambulance guy came out, and oh my goodness, by the way, he was lovely. And I put gas in there and vodka. Oh my gosh. So for 2 hours, a straightforward dislocation should have gone back into place, didn't.
No.
So I was kept in. So here's the interesting bit. The next day I was taken down to surgery.
Okay.
And I had to have a metal rod put in place.
Okay.
For the toe to stay into place. So it was my big toe on my right foot.
Okay.
So an interesting fact is that gives you your balance and your direction.
Really?
Really. And it's a rod in my toe. And I was like, right, okay. It didn't actually click what any of this meant whatsoever. So I was in hospital for 2 days. And then it was January, the year 2009.
Yeah.
And I went back to Women's Aid when I was let out. My kids were still with their dad.
Okay.
And I remember just going into my bed and just crying my little heart out, going, okay, God, you're real, now what? I really need to know your comfort right now. I need to know you're here. And Anna had bought me a book called God, I Need Your Comfort.
Okay.
And it was written by Kay Arthur.
Okay.
I'll just put that in there. Anybody wants to
put that in the show notes. Put in the show notes.
And I just randomly opened up the pages and it was as if you go astray.
Okay.
So all of us have gone astray and tend to go our own way. It's like, okay. And I continue to read on.
Yeah.
And basically what the words say, whether or not this is real, I don't know, but this is what was written down on those pages and it was real for me. Is what a shepherd will do with an independent sheep is it will go and catch that independent sheep and he will break that sheep's leg. Not to hurt the sheep, but so that the sheep will have a very real relationship with the shepherd, and that sheep will never want to wander off. And at that point, I just absolutely broke, and it was so surreal because looking back, I could see God. I could see where God had intervened. I could see where God had kept me safe, where I was still here. It just really opened my eyes. And then from that day forward, I've just been able to see what God is doing in the midst of it. Sometimes it's been really difficult. But he's always been with me. And it was amazing, just all the little things that has happened. So when difficult things happen, he always reminds me, I'm with you. Remember what I've done. So I was in homeless at that point. And during that time, it was a really difficult time. My kids actually ended up staying with their dad. Social work then got involved. Lies were told. And it was decided on a voluntary basis that my kids would stay with their dad.
Okay.
However, if I'd have tried to take my children, I would not have been able to see my kids. I would have had, they would have got things put in place. That was probably one of the lowest times of my life at that point. In 2010, I got the keys to a beautiful home. And I was told I was going to get a 2-bedroom flat. And I was like, please, God, can I please just have a house with a small little garden so I can have an apple tree and a pear tree? And I remember actually saying that prayer, and I was under the influence. But it stuck in my head, and it's like, he still hears us no matter where we are, even on a mess. He hears us and he's still with us. So in March, I got the notification. I wasn't able to move in until May. So I was the first in Fife to get the furniture tenancy scheme, and I was told that if I didn't get it, I would move into an empty house. If I did, I would know, because there would be a carpet and everything would be in there. So when I opened the door, I went in, and I not only had carpets and lino, I had a fridge freezer and a cooker and a bed and 2 single beds, and it was just absolutely amazing. And then actually a little bit of church. I think it was a day or 2 days later, turned up outside my house and emptied a van load of stuff. And I had the most comfiest 3-piece suite, and then another couple, Ken and Evie, they did Calvary Church. Absolutely love them a bit, honestly. Ken unfortunately isn't with us anymore, but Evie is. He's already celebrating, he's in glory. It's amazing.
He's in a better place than the rest of us.
Oh, honestly. So they kind of put together all the little things that I didn't have. An ice cream scoop. It's one of the ancient ones. It is the best thing ever. I've still got it. It's amazing.
Without the stupid plastic bit that snaps off.
This thing's
amazing. A piece of solid metal.
It's a solid metal. You just press the thing and it goes around. It's awesome. But yeah, everything that I needed, I had. Even an ironing board and an iron, and I don't even like ironing, but I do it. So that was then. And then in the June, I actually realised I had a fully mature apple tree, pear tree, strawberries, brambles, raspberries. Honestly, I now have rhubarb in there as well, which I really need to use a lot of sugar with. But anyway, honestly, absolutely everything. And I moved into that home not knowing what was going to happen.
But God did.
Oh, He did.
He went before you.
Totally.
And actually, something I was just thinking there, is, you became a Christian when you were a wee girl. You were saved. You were born again. Like when you're a wee girl. You're 32 years old, right? 35, 36 by this point, when you moved into your house in Dunfermline.
So 32, I left in 2009. So I would be 33, 34.
Okay, mid-30s. And actually, you'd gone from rock bottom to God had gone before you, and it was almost like He made this beautiful, warm house for you, bigger than you imagined. He gave you nature's candy in your back garden. Do you know what I mean? It's like He wanted to lavish this good stuff on you. And also He knew your kids would come back. And there was a space for them. And that's what I love. I love how God can speak to us in real, gentle, ways that make our day-to-day life smoother. He can go before us and show us His promise to come, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's amazing that you found yourself there. And you could have been in a small, empty, cold flat, but actually you had, despite wandering off the path all those years, you found yourself in a cozy, furnished, much larger home than you imagined. That decked out garden, so specific to what you asked for. When you were drunk, grace is just amazing when you were drunk, because there's nothing you can do to separate yourself from God, right? You can feel far away, but there's nothing you can do to separate yourself from God. And He totally looked after you. And fast forward a wee bit, because I know you're going to know the story. You have, is it kinship of Winter? So your wee granddaughter. So she's very cute.
She's very
small
cute.
but mighty.
Definitely.
And your bigger, your weest girl, Lily, who's how old?
She's 8.
8. And your bigger ones have moved on, but you're a granny. Who's 3. And tell us a wee bit about your work now, because obviously you could write a book, but we've only got a 30 to 40 minute podcast. You find yourself there, you're plugged into a church that just love you, and that community, and they just come around you and give you literally what you need. They're like hands and feet at that point.
Oh, definitely.
And you have your kids living with you. You're in a healthier space. And you get involved in trauma-informed parenting.
Uh-huh.
So you actually went to become an integrative Christian counsellor.
Yeah.
And then partway through that course, you through one reason or another, you were given kinship of your wee granddaughter, who was how old at the time?
So she was only 3 months old.
3 months old at the time.
But I got residency of her, or full kingship. Oh my goodness, 2020, I think it was.
Okay. So she's living with you.
Yeah.
And you're clearly in a much healthier space. Although it's safe to say, I think we all lose it on a daily basis, don't we? I mean, quite honestly, let's get real here. I'm a witch before my coffee. But you're in this beautiful home, and partway through you train to become an integrative Christian counsellor, you get winter.
Yeah.
And you do a U-turn.
Yeah.
And actually what God says to you is, no, you're going to go down the path of trauma-informed parenting.
Yeah.
To be equipped to look after all these babies and kiddies you've got in your life, but also to take care of some business that's gone on. So can you tell us a wee bit, just like, a few minutes about that?
Yeah. Winter came and stayed with me at the age of 3 months. Winter had quite a traumatic start in life. Her intestines had formed on the outside of her abdomen. And when she was born at 32 weeks. By C-section, and she was whisked down to surgery. So she was in surgery for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Which was probably one of the hardest 4.5 hours of our lives. And she had 40% of her intestines removed. And they had to sew bits up and widen bits. Oh my goodness. And she had her appendix removed at that point. And a stoma bag put on, where we were told that she could possibly have this thing for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Because the damage was so intensive, we didn't know how things were going to heal. However, within 4 weeks, that bag was removed, and she was doing absolutely amazing.
Answer to prayer.
Oh, fantastic. She really is. So she was in an ICU through in Glasgow at the Queen Elizabeth. They're absolutely phenomenal staff. I'm so grateful for the NHS.
Yeah.
They go above and beyond, and they are so stretched. But this little girl was in NICU for 12 weeks over in Glasgow. And in that time, we had 3 really scary moments where the alarms went off and she flatlined. She got sepsis. How that little girl is alive is only by the grace of God, and a mountain of people, an army of people praying for her. At 12 weeks, my son and his girlfriend decided to move over here, and she was moved over to Kirkcaldy. And 2 weeks later, she was released. It was a really scary, traumatic, emotional time for everybody concerned. Anxiety levels were going crazy, obviously. This little girl nearly didn't make it, so many times nearly didn't make it. Our mummy was not getting a lot of sleep at all. And it was just a really stressful time. So for 2 weeks, they were looking after their baby girl. And during that 2 weeks, there was not a lot of sleep had. Emotions were very high. Winter was not settling down. She had been released without a team of doctors and nurses into a very quiet environment at that point, which is amazing, to be honest. Oh my goodness, what's happening?
A bit too quiet.
A bit too quiet, yeah. So I tried to not get involved too much and just back away. But she wasn't settling down. Nobody was settling at that point. And I just remember taking her into my arms, and within a few minutes she just went to sleep. And I didn't put her down, and I just let her sleep. And she stayed in my arms for 5 hours and just slept the whole time. She was tired. She was absolutely exhausted. Everybody was exhausted. I think Mum slept as well during that point. I hope so anyway. So over a period of time, it was decided that she would come and stay with me, because I didn't have that same emotional connection that Mum and Dad did.
No.
I'd not gone through the whole trauma of that experience. So she basically, the way that I see it is that she chose me, and as difficult as that was for mum and dad, they made that decision to basically let their baby go and come and stay with me. And it was out, and they still have contact.
Yeah.
And we still do family meals and get-togethers. It's not, you know, they've not gone away. And they have gone on to have 2 beautiful children. And they're successfully been able to keep them. You know, I've got my 4-year-old, well, 3-year-old before in January. He is just an absolute delight. He is such a wee gent. And then my new granddaughter, so she's brand new, and she is just absolutely gorgeous, big smiles. And mum and dad are doing amazing, and I'm just so proud of them. Honestly, I really am. You know, so God can really turn it around. And I have the privilege and honour to be able to say, you know, they're my family. You know, they're doing amazing.
So nice.
And Winter is such a God's, you know, she's God's baby girl. She's a Winter warrior.
She is.
And be nice to me, but I do call her the runt sometimes, you know, because she was so tiny. She was only 1.67 kilograms, you know, so she was this tiny little thing, and she's absolutely gorgeous. And Lily, you know, she's took on the role of auntie, and sometimes they act like sisters because we have the sibling rivalry going on, you know, and it's like, oh my goodness, right, okay. But you know, Lily does amazing. They all do. I'm so proud of all of them. They've done amazing.
They've come through a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you so you do your stuff with trauma-informed parenting at the minute. And I guess we're not going to go into that because there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. A lot to it.
What we were just saying was, isn't it amazing that you've taken the situation and the rough start that your mum had, actually, that you had. You had a rough time for a long time. And some of the stuff that your older kids have been through, and actually God has picked you up. And what he's given you now is you're now someone that has such a clear mind and can see. You've got such an understanding of the word. You've got a good expectation of God. You know, you expect good things. And actually, we're just having a discussion there about, you know, Winter and Lily, they're being raised in this church, and they know Jesus is their Lord and Saviour. And that will change everything forever.
Totally. Do
you know,
definitely.
It's amazing. And for people listening to this, you know, you've spoken about the ups and downs, and it's become very apparent. You don't give your life to Christ and then all of a sudden the heavens open and out falls sunshine and lollipops. It's a process because you're still you're still your fleshly side. And it's it's a process. And I think the more we dig into the word, the more we have an understanding of God and who he is in his grace, the quicker that process can speed up to, you know, get to where we never really want to be, because our home is in heaven. But as of today, right now, what do you wish you could say to the person that was like off their face with a broken toe about who Jesus is, what he thinks of her, and what he's going to do to her life if she doesn't finish it off?
That's a good question.
I know, I never said I was going to say that. Sorry.
What would I say to her? I would say you are enough. It's okay to feel crap. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to stamp your feet. It's okay to shout and get angry at God even, you know, but he's never ever going to leave you. He's never going to go away from you.
Because you've made that decision. You've said that prayer. You've invited him into your life.
That's
happened.
It's done. You know, no matter what, it's done. There's absolutely not a single solitary thing that you could do that would make him that could separate you from his love. Because he is love. You know, is a father that made you and created you for a relationship with him. You know, and he's only got the very best in mind. His Bible is a love story. It's not a set of rules and what you've got to do to get that, you know, to get his acceptance. He already accepts you exactly where you are. You know, and if we look at Jesus when he came back as a child, he came back in a filthy, dirty stable or manger. It wasn't sanitized. They didn't have bleach back in those days. They had no roof. They had no home at that point. You know what I mean? They were out of their comfort zone completely and utterly, and they had to trust. That God had them every step of the way. And kings came, or wise men came and visited. The place was filthy. And he wasn't brought up in palaces and with a lot of great stuff around him. He was brought up in muck.
And what he represented is the new covenant that we now live under, that all those that follow Jesus, we live under a new covenant. And that's very, very good news. And what do you think your life would look like without Jesus? Or a good understanding of Jesus in the new covenant of grace that we live under?
What it would look like without him. Without him, I would either be in a padded cell, or a police cell, or I wouldn't be here. God really picked me up from a place that I was at my darkest. And I did not see any hope or light whatsoever. And he really did. When I was sitting on that floor with my dislocated toe, the realization that it was real, but it was still a process. It wasn't like, okay, God, you're real, and that everything was fixed. I knew it was real, but I still didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel accepted or worthy enough of his love. And it wasn't until actually coming around other people and getting into his word and learning more of who his character was and is, that's when the relationship started to happen. When I was able to actually lay all my stuff down and accept, I'm not good enough.
That's the whole point.
But his grace is. And his sacrifice, he would have died just for me. And that just blows my mind. He loves us so much, and he died so that I could be reconciled back to a Father that loved me, is holy, and he covers me by his grace, his mercy. It's not about me. It's not about what I've done or not done. It's about him and what he has done. I could not have done this without him. I wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to you. I wouldn't have been in the situations that I've been in without him, and being in this church and having a family. And I've not just, I didn't come to Liberty Church back then and stay in Liberty Church. I went to all different churches looking for God and his relationship in people. I didn't find it there. I found the relationship with God by allowing him in. And getting to know who he is.
Your understanding of him.
And it talks to us, and he talks to us through other people, through his word, through his worship, through situations and circumstances. My girls are in an amazing family school right now. They have had so much support and love. I never got that as a kid. The kids, the teachers are trauma informed, a lot of them. Suzanne has been fantastic. I'll just put that out there. Suzanne Scott.
Is she in school?
No, Suzanne Scott stays in Glasgow, so she's the founder of Trauma Informed Parenting. And that is based by Brian Post, by Post Institute, and they're over in America. And it's just, it really has.
But thank you so much for coming on, Donna. It's been so nice to sit and chat here. This is the first time I've ever recorded a podcast in the same room as someone, and it's quite nice actually. So thank you so much. And I just know that I'm going to get so many emails and things like that from people that listen to this that say how much you've impacted them. So I'm going to put the books you recommended in the show notes, and we'll just leave it there.
So if you haven't already, please subscribe and leave a review, or even email me with anything you think I could do to make this podcast better. I'm totally open to hearing feedback and ideas. Every single week I am emailing out a bit of an encouraging newsletter. These are going to change every week. Sometimes it's going to be thoughts that God has put in my heart. Sometimes it's going to just be maybe a series of funny stories or life hacks or things that I find helpful. Either way, it's a great way for us to connect, and I would love to have you on the subscribers list, so make sure to do that. Have a lovely week, praying for God's protection over you as you just go about your business, and I'll see you again. Bye.